you and greetings to everyone. Can I just test with you if you can see my presentation that I've just put up for you?
Yes, sir. We can see your presentation.
It's visible. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to conference organizers for inviting us, and greetings to everyone. Also, like my colleague who presented before, I'm avoiding saying good morning or good afternoon. But what I can share with you is that in sunny South Africa, it is 4:25 in the afternoon. We're enjoying great weather right now. I've prepared this presentation just to take you through in terms of the brief that I have. My job is actually the most exciting this afternoon because I'm requested to tell you about something that is very close to my heart and the team that I work with. The presentation is going to cover quite a few areas of work. We're going to firstly start by introducing the legislative sector so that it gives a proper context to everyone who's listening when I start talking to issues of technology and how we are embracing technology within the South African legislative sector. Just to quickly, without boring the delegates with the constitutional speak, but to simply indicate that in South Africa, we have 10 legislatures, one at a national level, which is called ordinarily or named Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, where we are based as the support team. And then we also have 9 provincial legislatures that are spread across the 9 provinces that we have in the country. You will all note that 1994 in South Africa was actually a moment, it was a turning point when there were first democratic elections and we had our first democratically elected parliament and provincial legislatures. It's a moment that we always mention and we're very proud of. It's a moment when we started seeing all South Africans, all diversity that we are proud of participating in the democracy that we are so proud of as a country. From the onset, the Constitution established all these legislatures, and the spirit was to say the legislatures need to work together. We need to ensure that there are no silos. We need to make sure that we find standards and that legislatures grow together as a sector. If you look at our constitution did not necessarily envisage a sector, but through the wisdom of leadership of our speakers, historically, there was a decision that we need to start working together. And as time progressed, this arrangement was formalized through a signing of a sector memorandum of understanding, which was really based on the spirit that although you vote distinct, independent institutions, it is more important that they acknowledge the interdependence and the interrelatedness. This is how we ended up transitioning from essentially what would have been casual arrangements between institutions into something that is formalized into what we call the legislative sector that we have today. Quickly, at a governance level, you will see that the legislative sector is led by the Speakers Forum, which is essentially a group or an association of speakers. For those who may not be aware, speakers are heads of legislatures. They lead these institutions politically, and also they have secretaries, or also known as clerks, and I will speak to secretaries and clerks a bit later, who are responsible for running these institutions. I thought, again, at the level of context, it would be important to just give you the objectives of the sector. What is it that it seeks to achieve? You'll see that there's a strong feeling that we need to foster cooperation among legislatures. There's a strong sense that we also ensure that we grow together as we implement the different constitutional mandates that we have. A colleague who spoke earlier indicated already that we've got a few constitutional mandates ranging from lawmaking, oversight, all the way to facilitation of public involvement. Now, some of the objectives speak to supporting one another in this constitutional democracy and ensuring that we grow together. I thought I should also, in the time given, speak to this result chain. Of course, some of this information I'm sure delegates can interact with at their leisure. This result chain simply shows what we are sharing as a vision together as a sector, where we're looking at our impact, where we make in implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. You will see that also we are committed to African Union goals as set out in Agenda 2063 and other policy commitments that we have, including importantly our national development plan. I want to hastily move. I've got a slide here that speaks to a Speakers Forum, and this slide will tell you what the Speakers Forum is about, what it does. It's essentially about the leadership and the governance issues around the Speakers Forum is organized in such a way that we are able to identify developments within and that are appearing from different legislatures. And these are shared among all legislatures with an intention, of course, of adopting best practices so that we all emulate and we grow together as a sector. Although I should importantly emphasize on the reference group that's responsible for capacity building. And this one finds relevance here in the sense that this is a reference group that practically and politically is responsible for matters of innovation and 4IR, and all matters that are related to development would then be facilitated through this particular forum. I've touched earlier on the role that is played by secretaries. Secretaries, also known in other jurisdictions as clerks of parliament. They are the implementing arm. So when we develop these innovative ways of doing business, when we develop models, secretaries are responsible for ensuring that these are implemented in their institutions. Otherwise, you end up with institutions that have got things that they can do, but they end up not being implemented, thereby not making a real difference in the lives of people of South Africa. This is LSS, a division that I come from in Parliament. This slide just shows you how we are organized and what we focus on. I'm responsible personally for core business, and I've got other colleagues who are responsible for the other areas of work as reflected there. What I wanted to emphasize more is that capable legislative sector work. That component is the component that is also responsible for issues of 4IR, led by a deputy speaker of a parliament, not parliament, rather National Assembly, which is in parliament, which gives it then that political bravado and support to ensure that all matters of innovation are taken through and seen through. I will conclude with a few slides that talk about some technological developments that I thought we should share as a legislative sector and as they impact on the different mandates that we have. There is a system, for instance, I will use as an example, that has been developed in Parliament that serves to support an important program taking Parliament to the people out there in communities, rural communities at times. What this system serves to do is it assists officials to collate information so that the information is also accessible through the different legislatures. There is no paperwork, you are managing paper, but you're also ensuring that centralized information is available to everyone within this vast republic. I also made a note there around social media to say social media has become quite important in the recent history of legislatures in South Africa, where we are opening the doors of our institutions through social media, where members of the public are able to engage with the institutions using social media. If you look at the area of oversight lawmaking in this nature of our business where we support meetings, we refer, and I think it's going to be very difficult for you to go through this conference without referring to COVID-19. We look at COVID-19 and see it as what you can call the nudge. Churchill said, you must never waste a good crisis. A good crisis must never be let to go to waste. This nudge that was brought by COVID-19 meant that all the innovation that was there before, but that was kind of limited by reluctance, now found prominence, and people were willing to move away from the traditional way of doing business, of physical meetings, where you find now in the sector, we started with the full virtual meetings where people could not get around in my minute left. And then we started going to hybrid meetings as reflected earlier by a colleague from KwaZulu-Natal who spoke before me. I thought also we could reflect on the role of ICT, that they had to move with speed as well. They gained prominence as well and investment in terms of resources that they would need. But the important thing that you want to discuss is that this openness using technology meant security of information and integrity of our proceedings were compromised at times. So ICT had to rise to the occasion, make sure there's access, but limit issues and manage issues of security. At a sector level, you will find that our meetings are much better. There's more efficiency, more meetings happening without people having to travel and expose themselves to a lot of risk. And this is my last slide with your indulgence. We had video conferencing facilities before, and this my colleague touched on. And in our view, this became white elephants because there was investment, but there was always this reluctance. People preferred traveling, flying around. But with the COVID-19, with this current situation we're finding ourselves, all facilities related to video conferencing, to use of Zoom, to use of Teams and all other related platforms, Parliament and related institutions like legislatures are moving forward in terms of embracing technology. At a level of planning, what we've become aware of is that we're going to need to start also embracing ICT as part of the important areas that we need to plan for as a priority and allocate even more resources going forward. And also it looks like at a sector level, we may need to have an ICT forum where heads of ICT and operatives at that level come together and identify opportunities for growth in the space of technology so that this is implemented in all institutions. Lastly, we're looking at benefits that we've realized. The obvious ones would be your cost, time, and effectiveness of our processes. But also you'll see that convenience. There's a lot of balance in terms of work-life balance. We're also realizing a lot of returns on investment, where previously you would have allocated gadgets to MPs, members of parliament and legislatures, and those gadgets would sit and gather dust or would be used by their children because they're not interested in technology. Now they seem to find themselves in a space where they have no choice but to embrace this technology, obviously to the benefit of these institutions of the people, where it's closer to the people, it's more effective, and you are able to reach more people than you would with physical meetings and engagements. Thank you very much.